Hi, this presentation is a tutorial entitled References Management Part 2. It's a follow-up for a previous video called References Management Part 1. I invite you to watch the previous video first before starting this tutorial. Well, I'm going to talk here about how to insert a reference within a text, how to choose a reference type, how to complete this entry, how to insert a bibliographic list at the end of a document using Zotero for sure, and how to complete your citation before saving your Zotero library files. So to make sure that you are on the same page, I'm talking here about Zotero 6 for Windows or any later released version, and I need also that you install on your Chrome connector or any other browser like Firefox or others, or Safari, your Zotero. So based on that, this is the first step to do. Well, we are going together to start to use this reference. This is a reference of 4 authors, as you can see, and we have a year, we have a title, and we have a type of a document, which is a report, the publishing, and the city and the country. We will try to use this entry and use it for our entry. So let's start with this first exercise. But before starting, I will copy that, keep it, and I will go directly, first thing, open my Word file. This is a document where I'm going to work on the citation. First thing I can show you here to make sure that we are on the same page, you have to check your document preferences. Here, for example, you can switch the different of citation style depending on your choices. If you have, for example, a numbering system, you can make the IEEE. You can see directly that the references became numbered. In my case, in my lab, SBD lab, we always use the APA, so I will switch back and select the APA, American Psychological Association, and here you can see the numbering system is switched to be back to be by authors. Now make sure that your author guidelines you're adhering to the requirement. So this is the first step to do. Second thing, I will run Zotero, and here you can see Zotero. And if you remember the reference I was talking about here, this reference we need now to insert it first in Zotero. So in Zotero here I created a library. I call it Plia because this was the title of my conference where I'm working on my manuscript that you saw here, and I am already creating a set of references in this library, but I'm going to add now a new entry. I will click on this and I will find document. It's a report. I can directly pick up a report. If it's something else, if you're looking for a website or something else, you have to fetch in all these lists. In case you cannot find the type of your document in this list, just start with anything. You can say document, and once you have the document on the right side, you can start to enter the details, and you can say, for example, instead of a document, it is a web page, or it is a video recording, or anything missing from the entry. In our case here, we're talking about a report. So we click on a report, we take this and we start to feed it one by one. We're talking here about Easy 2023. This is the report. We're talking here about some authors. Let's take the authors and add their last names. This is first family name, then we have a Z. We can click like that, and we can add author 2, and one by one I start to feed in manually the entry for this reference or for this report. Every time I add a new author, here I have Arends, for example, add it, and so on, until I'm sure that I have all the authors listed in this document. Here I made a mistake, so it's in the abstract, so I have to click on authors, and we are here, but E period, and we had the last author. Here you go, and we can also click on the first initial. So here you go, I'm done with all that, so I'm cleaning up the title. Now what is left? It has to be a report, International Energy Agency. So here you go, I will write here the title of the organization, let's say. I would say institution, place is Vienna, Austria, and I can start to delete all that. Here you go. So I have now a title, I have the authors, I have the different information. If you have the URL access, it can be added, but it's not obligatory for a report. However, if you have a website, for example, it's mandatory to mention the URL and the access dates. So here you go, I have the reference. As you can see, it's popping up on this side. Now I have inserted this reference, and I'm going back to my document where I have my, for example, in this place, Suze Meyers, I want to add this reference. I will just mention the first letters AI, which was the first author. I check, did he mention it? Yeah, it's here down, you can see on the right, here down, very down. And here I can click enter, and here you go, I have the two references embedded in my text. Now the last check I can do is to go down in my references list here, as you can see the references list, and I will ask to refresh it to check what is there. And don't forget that even though the references is not formatted like the rest of the document, but I can simply come here and I can check and reformat it so that it's more appropriate, and you can see it's directly appropriate. What we can see here, that unfortunately something is missing. I do not have the city name, I do not have the country name, and therefore I will need to go back to Zotero, and most probably in the archive I will copy this information and try to see what happens, and go back to the text here, updated, just go to Zotero, refresh, and see what happened. Again, I have to reformat and check. And here you go, Vienna, Austria, they were added to the document. Maybe what I can do also to make sure that I'm on the right page is to check the reference and add the word before report on the archive line, and update and check. Here you go, Zotero, refresh, it's updated, and we take this as an example. You can see now I have Vienna, I have it. I don't have report popping up because actually I didn't activate it here. Again, this is to be done. Refresh from Zotero, and you can see if it's done or not. Yes, excellent. We have a full reference here done in a manual way. The reference is fully cited at the reference list at the end, and it's embedded in this page. In case I want to change it, I want to take it out, come back, go back, check on Zotero, and start to add. And here you can see I can delete or add, assert, or any other references. So this is how it's done if I want to do it manually. Assuming that, for example, I decided to say I need to add a sentence based on the work of someone here, and I need to cite this someone. There's another way to add the references, is that I will go to Google Scholar, search the document. Let's say I was doing a search, I came here to this, and I found this first publication here, very interesting, and I want to cite it in this location where I'm telling you I added a new text to support my work with an argument. I'm going to check it, I have it completely. I go here on the right side, as you can see I have already installed the Zotero plugin. I click it and you can see the whole references from Zotero. I can pick up any references, and once I click it from here, it will be imported in my Zotero database. So here the Amer paper, I will click OK. As you can see what's happening here, it's going to save it to my Plea Hassan Fathi paper, and the paper title is there. Now I can go back to Zotero, check if this is the case. Yes, it is. It is already highlighted. All the details are manually inserted on the right side. Now what I can do, I can directly ask to insert here a citation, add, and then I will mention the paper. Here you go, it popped up the first. Click on it, enter. I have the paper in. So those are two ways to insert a citation, whether you want to do it manually and whether you want to do it through Google Scholar imported. In any case, every time you have to go back down and check in the list of references if the reference is properly cited or not. In this case, I will check the work here. This paper hammer, it looks good. We have the authors, we have the year, we have the title, this is the journal name, we have the volume, and we have the issue. So excellent, I don't need to add anything. In case something is missing, we will do the same story like what we did with I. In his work, we had to go to Zotero and change here in the archive, for example, add the missing descriptions. So this is how it works if you want to insert a reference in a document and make sure that it is cross-linked with your Zotero citation. Now, I did talk earlier about the citation types, but I want to remind you again about it. Don't forget always, when we create a new document, we have several options of types of documents. Those are the options that we can use from starting artwork. We use a book. You have to distinguish books, conferences, data sets. If you have a forum podcast post or journal article, magazine article, manuscript in general, patent, presentation, software, a standard, and like I mentioned earlier, even if you don't find the word website, just start with any option, take an entry, just make a document or something, select let's say a manuscript, and once you are in here and before entering, just switch and you'll find the option web page, for example. This is in case you want to have some additional types of entries, and if something is missing, this is the way to add a web page, so don't forget that. Now, what is the next thing we have to do? I would like to show you something else. Assuming that all this list of citation, assume it was not there, you know. You are working on your document, and here we have references. I will delete it, and as you can see, there is no list of references. Assuming you're doing it for the first time, you're just in the beginning of your work, you started writing text, you cited some references, and while you are writing, you don't have references. All you need to do is to come at the end of your document in the section of references, and then go in your Zotero interface, and then you will find the add bibliography. Once I click on it, you can see, here you go. The bibliography is there. Maybe it's not cited, or the formatted, the text is not formatted as I need. I can do that here, you know, I'm formatting it now, and here you go. I have it properly formatted according to the instructions of the website. I can even number it if I need, for example, but this has to do mainly with Word, and I can start the formatting process. I can start to play with the paragraph margins. So all these kind of editing features are available, and it's up to you to work with them to make sure that you are complying with the requirements. So this is how to insert a bibliographic list. Now, one of the last thing I would like to talk with you and show you before leaving this tutorial is that once you are finished with your references list, or during your working process, and if you are changing computers, or when you are at the end of your process, you have always to not forget the following. You have to export your library. And this is so important, because later on, if you change computer, or somebody is later on working using your document and continuing the processing, it will be very important to use the same Zotero RTF file, because if not, the file will be on your computer only, and then when you export or share only your Word file, don't expect that the citations are already embedded, and in reality they need to be associated with a Zotero file. So here what we do, we go to export library, and we can say Zotero RDF, export the notes, export the files, and then I say OK. I find a location. Let's say I will save it on my desktop, for example. I can name it, for example, for this paper, Playa, and then I can say, okay, this is the Playa paper, and I'm exporting. So this is how it's done, and it's very important, and part of your professional work is that when you are sharing your Word file for your manuscript that you always share with it your Zotero ZDF, because it's so important to do it, and it's very important to make sure that your file of Word is associated with Zotero. Now, what can you do also in general? In general, when we start looking at references, you can see there's a lot of problems and troubles. For example, here you can see this list here. It's very long. This is Steely orientation. I don't know, this reference is incomplete. So this is the last thing I would like to talk with you. Regardless of whatever you did, at the end of the day, you need to be thorough, and you need to be careful, and you need to revise every reference one by one. And you need to make sure that the reference is clear. Here we are talking about a book by James Steely. It's called Orientalism and the Other. And in this book, we don't have allocation. It's the publisher's University of Southern California. So here we need at least to add California, United States of America, plus this reference need to be shortened. So let's go back and complete this missing reference and improve it. So I will go back to Zotero, and I will start to look at the reference. Where is it? Steely. Here you go. And as you can see, there's a lot of missing information. What I will do, I will go to archive. I will write California, Cali, USA. And what is also important is the URL. The URL for me is too long, so I'm just going to internet short URL, and I'm going to pick up a URL, a free URL shortener. And here you go, I have the URL. I will shorten it. I got something shorter. I go back to Zotero, and I'm going to replace this very long link with this URL. Now I have it. It's a book. I have the title, I have the author, I have the university. Place, unfortunately, I could also put it in the right place, but it doesn't pop up. I don't know why. It's better to put it in archive. And I'm going now to refresh the reference here. So I'm going to Zotero and tell him just refresh. For sure I will lose the format, so I have to reformat again everything. This is the disadvantage. Well, at the end of using Zotero, you can completely kill the link or unlink your Zotero, and then your format will be permanent. But let's go to James Steely. Where are you? Here you go, James. Here you go. You see the reference? Complete. Excellent. It's very nice. I have all the detail. I have the year, the book name, University of Southern California, the location, the city, and I have a short URL. This is the best way how to cite a book. And by that, I can better start to improve my citation style. So again, as you can see, all these documents need to be reworked. The UNESCO, for example, UNESCO has a headquarter. I don't know, maybe it's Paris, France. So this need to be added. This is a long URL. So these are all measures that you will need to work on to fix your work. And as I mentioned, you need always to modify or complete these incomplete references based on your knowledge, if it's a book, a journal, a website, and so on, until you make sure that all the reference list is appropriately done and that references are correctly cited. Again, you see, unbelievable. I cannot imagine that I have in my citation a line of 5 lines for references. This is again something that needs to be worked on. University Chicago Press, most probably this will be Chicago, United States for this reference. So every time you need to work on these missing thing, and make sure that you maintain overall all your references properly in your list for this conference paper, for example. Make sure to avoid any double references, because sometimes you can have a reference doubled. It's important that you avoid these kind of doubled references. You can see here this is 2 times, so what I have to do, delete it. This is part of proper management. This is deleted, so I have it now only 1 time. Also make sure that the references are written in the language of your manuscript. If you are writing a manuscript in French, references can be cited in French, but if you're writing it in English, all references need to be in English, and so on. So this is the last comment, this is the last note. This was the presentation of today of References Management Part 2. It's a tutorial. I hope it was useful. Good luck with your citation, and thank you for your attention.